All right. As the chair of the Wabash Township Board, I now am calling this meeting to order. The next step in the process would be the roll call vote. Mr. Secretary, can you call the roll? Present. All right, perfect. We'll now do the Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody could please stand, we have a flag over here. And I'll mute myself just to avoid creating feedback in case anybody's unmuted. I apologize, I had the wrong agenda up. All right, so the first item, the item number 4 on the agenda would be approval of previous board minutes. I'll cede the floor to Secretary Brendan Betts. You can put it on top, it's fine.
Let's use my acrobatic space.
Okay.
And then, pardon me, actually, I have 2 separate minutes. Our last regularly scheduled meeting, if you will, occurred on June 25th, 2021. We called to order at 6:09. We did our roll call. We had the entire board present and therefore quorum. We did our pledge of allegiance. We approved the previous meeting's minutes. We had our update from the township trustee who claimed she was prepared to work with the community to maintain funding moving forward. And we had an update from our fire department. Deputy Chief Lewis explained that 574 runs had been carried out to date, which is up from last year. There's a simple process to gain more funding by raising a tax rate. This requires proof that we have increased runs and growth significantly since 2010. A 3% increase in tax would equate to about $300,000. If we received a 10-cent increase, that would raise more than $1 million. Public comment and communications was our next piece. We heard from Ms. Jackson, Deb Felix, Mike Dwyer, Ms. Patricia Mason, our former trustee, Bryce McCarty, as well as Amos Miller, Gina Hoy, Linda Charter, and Kayla Merkel, Jamie Roth, former chief ward, and Jake Elliott. All spoke in support of our fire department, also including Kevin McDonald and Andrew Spiker. Darcy Felix did come back up as well. We also had West Lafayette City Councilwoman Kathy Parker pose a question, and the trustee chose to stick to relevant questions in her responses. She claimed that Jim Lewis, the option outlined by Jim Lewis was available to us 2 years ago. She said she contacted the Department of Local Government and Finance. They assessed our growth and said we did not qualify. As an aside, I did request documentation of that discussion, which has not yet been provided, though I was given a rough date and a person with whom she may have spoken. We discussed a territory versus a district, or she covered that. The legislation has put us, she talked about state legislation. And she tried to claim that the June 30th event, as in tomorrow when we lose our paid folks, that we've had this situation before. Let's see. I moved to give the trustee 90 more seconds so that she could further respond. Let's see. That motion carried unanimously. She maintained that that we would not pay the city of West Lafayette for their services rendered. and didn't expect to receive a bill for some unknown reason. The emergency loan, so she claimed that we used the money, all that money for things related to the fire department, staff and benefits. And she's claiming that we can use it for part-time folks. Our chair had a point of clarification on that note regarding not paying our current lawyer, which is true. I clarified that we actually did pay bond counsel out of that, which was a different attorney. She claimed not to know that in the case, but that is a fact. Angel Valentin, see our chair, nothing is spent this year within the professional services funds, he clarified, and he is correct on that as well. Let's see, we tabled our old business from items A through E. We went down to F, which is resolution 2021-9, the resolution to create the emergency response department, which did ultimately carry unanimously. It did receive support from our firefighters as well as folks around the state. Let's see, of course, the chair remarked that he would rather have a trustee willing to do the work rather than us try to pass the emergency response department. Let's see here. We did a roll call vote. This passed unanimously, as I stated. Consideration of other measures necessary to maintain the current level of fire protection. We tabled that, which did carry by unanimous consent. And we went into our future meeting dates, which include this meeting. And that constitutes our minutes as taken on June 25th by the secretary. Do we have any additions or amendments to the minutes as read? I'll move to pass these minutes and incorporate them into the record.
Second.
I'll do so by voice acclamation if we can.
Aye.
So passes. We also held an emergency meeting this morning at 8 in the morning. So I will review those minutes quickly to incorporate, pardon me, to finalize these minutes from our meeting this morning. In attendance, we did have several folks, members of the media, as well as this board. We called the order at 8:05. The chair moved to open the special/emergency meeting, which carried unanimously by consent. We did a roll call and had the entire board present, no trustee. We did our pledge of allegiance. We moved on to emergency business, which included resolution 2021-10, which allowed us to formally join the legal petition, the lawsuit, an injunction, seeking an injunction on the trustee for her move to fire our paid staff. This did ultimately carry unanimously. We passed resolution 2021-11, which now perhaps becomes a little bit more relevant. We passed this unanimously. That resolution essentially allows us to, or states that we will bring legal action if the trustee does not follow through with resolution 2021-9, which is establishing an emergency response department. We then discussed our future meeting dates, which include this meeting, and we adjourned at 8:14 in the morning. Do we have any alterations or amendments to the minutes as presented? I will move to pass the minutes from our emergency meeting this morning. We have our second from David Tay. All in favor by voice acclamation if we can.
Aye.
Those minutes are incorporated. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Moving on to the next item on the agenda, we have the township update. The first part of it will be the update from the office of the trustee.
I will have a motion to move forward
All right. You're recognized. What's the motion?
I would move that we put our trustee under oath for her remarks this evening.
Uh,
Have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Is our trustee on? Prepared to make remarks?
I believe she is on. Would you be able to swear her in as a secretary of the body?
Can do.
All right, Ms. Tyson, you have 5 minutes. Prior to that, you will be sworn in by the secretary of the body.
So our legal representation isn't clear on what you're doing. So I'd like a moment to speak with him to see what it is that's happening here in this meeting.
Being put under oath. That's what's happening here in this meeting.
I could hear you speaking earlier. So I don't know if he missed it as well, but give me just a minute.
clear on where the confusion is, trustee.
I'm calling the township council, Brendan. I'll be with you in just one moment.
I'll be back.
Actually, that's what the Terminator said. Sorry. All right, so seeing as the trustee is still on the phone with the township council, apparently, we'll move on to township update B, update from the fire department. Do we have a representative from the fire department that will speak? You're up. You got 5 minutes, sir.
Well, we're pretty much at a crossroads right now. I feel like I've let our three pay guys down, as well as the rest of firefighters, because we've not been able to find a solution that would be obvious to everybody but our trustee as to why we should keep these three pay guys on. It is her decision and her decision alone that we shouldn't have proper fire protection. There is no reason in this world, other than the fact that she wants to do it, that she's laying these three firefighters off. So I'm sure that she puts good into the world like she said she did, and she can sleep well at night, put her head on the pillow and go right to sleep. But I can't, because I fear for what's going on in our township. Right now, emotions are running very, very high. I'm not real sure how much of a fire department she's going to have left after tonight, because there's a lot of people that have made a decision that will be discussed later. I don't want to have that happen, I think, because I think we need to take the high road. We've always been a fire department that's been dependable. I just can't let one individual put everybody in jeopardy, and including the people that serve her, that do this with pay or without pay. And I'm sure that Ms. Tising, if she's listening, doesn't really care. One thing I found out about her is there's two things. You have to fact check everything that she says, and no matter what, it doesn't make any difference, because she doesn't care. I have not heard a single constituent that agreed with her saying that we need to let the three firefighters go. And I thought it was the constituents that elected her. And if she can't listen to her constituents, then she has no soul, as far as I can see. The people that elected her elected her to provide good fire protection. And when she first started out, that was her plan. We're going to increase the fire department, everything. But when things didn't go the way that she wanted to go, then I'm going to take my toys out of my sandbox and I'm not going to play anymore because it's my ball game. And if you don't want to play with me the way I want to play, then I'm not going to play at all. Unfortunately, there is not a legal thing that I think that can be done short of the criminal charges against her that will preclude us being able to remove her from office unless the State Board of Accounts or the Department of Local Government Finance decides to come down and do an audit. And why they haven't done one so far is beyond me. It's been requested numerous times by numerous people. There you are. Glad to see you tonight. I don't know how one person can ruin a fire department like you have ruined a fire department, but you've done a damn good job of it. And I hope that you're proud. That's all I've got to say.
Before you go away, Mr. Lewis, I have a question for you. Is it your understanding that the time frame to carry out a fire territory would be from January to April?
That is correct.
So what time was it that the trustee began the process of becoming a fire district this year?
I think she sent out the paperwork in May.
Ah,
Late April or May is when she sent out the flyer, I think. I don't have the exact date because
I can answer that question.
oh, Mr. Dwyer has an answer to that
I
question.
looked this up recently and I commented on it. She sent us initially to the fire department. I requested me to talk about it and to get our mind on early March, I won't say March. She didn't get much buy-in from us because of issues. She created a video on March 23rd in which she discussed this with Rudy Financial. She first published it or first notified anyone about it on March 29th. And the Journal Courier did a short story about it on March 30th, and she had on there, watch the video, please return comments on April 1st. She told everyone about it. The fire department knows about some mailings, fires that and didn't get them time for anyone to actually truly answer the questions. I submitted some questions to her. I had questions about the video. She told me, and I quote, I didn't answer your questions because we didn't get enough people to sign the petition. Mr. Lee tells me that she wasn't going to answer anyone's questions unless she got 6,000 signatures or whatever it was she wanted for the petition. And this isn't 6,000 people. This isn't me and my wife. This is my kids. This is landowners. So me and my wife as landowners, one person. We count as one person. There's no way I can find she needed in order to do this in the time frame she gave.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to clarify, right? That the first comment on it, the first work done this year was in March, even though the timeline that the township financial advisor had stated that we needed to start during budget season. And then the first that she spoke to the firefighters was in early March. The first time she published anything to the public was on March 29th. The Journal and Courier wrote an article on March 30th. And by April 1st, she had told the firefighters that she hadn't gotten enough signatures, so she wasn't even going to try to talk with them about it, which just highlights just the absurdity of the trustees' statements about, and frankly, the lack of honesty on the part of the trustee regarding what her work was when it came to fire district. And even now, I mean, it's dishonest to move and say we need to become a fire district when the trustee knows damn well that we can't do anything about it until the next year, because she didn't start the work as our financial advisor did it because she was down in Florida. Now, Mr. Secretary, if you please come up to put the trustee under oath so that she can deliver the statement from the office of the trustee.
Now, and Brendan, sorry, my camera went out for a second there, but can you hear me? So, this isn't something we discussed before. Can you tell me what, the statutory authority is for you administering the oath and what this concerns? This is something that should have been identified in a petition beforehand.
Not necessarily. The board gets to establish the procedure of its meetings, and we have approved the motion on the floor to put the trustee under oath. But Secretary Brendan can explain more thoroughly.
It is my understanding from your colleague, our counsel, that we can administer an oath to anybody coming to speak before our board in our meeting. That's my understanding per counsel in previous discussions.
So my understanding is not consistent with that. I would appreciate if you guys would kind of run this by us beforehand so we can figure out all the details. I don't really know what's going to go on here.
It doesn't matter. She should be telling the truth anyway. She is either under oath to speak or she does not get to speak at the meeting.
If that's your position, then she may not speak under these circumstances. I don't think it's appropriate for her to be questioned without prior knowledge of what the topics are going to be. This also isn't on the meeting minutes, and this wasn't in the notice, so it's kind of outside the scope of what you noticed the meeting as.
The meeting notice and agenda pertain to the items that will be discussed. However, the exact procedure of how it's going to be carried out does not need to be outlined in a notice, and there is no statement on public access counselor that would state that we need to have every process outlined prior to the meeting. But what needs to be noticed is the meeting, when it's taking place, and what the agenda will be.
Okay, I mean, I will leave it up to the trustee if she wants to speak under oath, but that's up to her. And if you guys don't want to hear from her, then that's, I guess, your decision.
We are happy to formally change our rules moving forward. I know to instill confidence in our constituency, they're going to need to hear her under oath.
Okay, I will leave it up to her to whether she wants to speak, but in the future, I would really appreciate if we would kind of work these things out beforehand instead of in this manner. But it is your meeting. You can do as you want, but under the Indiana Code 3669, you have the ability to administer oaths for specific purposes. I'm just trying to make sure that this is consistent.
It has to do with financial records and questions regarding finances, which is the board's responsibility, given that we are the fiduciary body.
Yep, sure. Legislative body usually sends the records beforehand. It's pretty unusual to be questioned on a bunch of documents.
We're under pretty unusual circumstances. That is correct, Jeff.
I'm just trying to advise you as to what the statutes say. All right, I'm not trying to take a position.
I understand, but
whether you should or should not.
Would it be your understanding that statute would allow us to put the trustee under oath to ask questions regarding fiduciary questions and expenditures of funds?
My understanding is that the statute provides that this, members of the board can administer oaths to discuss particular documents.
Correct.
That's not my understanding of what's happening here.
We are planning on discussing particular documents and questions regarding funding, as well as different aspects that fall under entirely financial jurisdiction.
Can you identify those documents?
Basically, to be frank, it'll be covered by everything that we've asked and hasn't been provided. So information regarding expenditures, contributions, money that was allocated, as well of what the purpose, probably the only extemporaneous one was, or like harder to justify, would be regarding the emergency loan, when it was gotten and for what purpose. Given that there have been so significantly misleading questions. If that is outside of the bounds of it, then we're fine to have the trustee not answer the question. Otherwise, it'll be regarding those, as well as township assistance provided this year, and just regular old finances.
And an update on the annual report, not to mention kind of checking on the tally of several of her responsibilities listed in code, including tabulation, including keeping records on our expenditures and receipts and that sort of thing as well. Of course, the trustee has in the past asked to take questions, get the information and return it to folks. I'm sure if she is unable to answer a question, she'd be happy to take that out.
So I understand all that. You know, the statutes authorize the administration of oaths to examine particular documents. Those documents weren't provided beforehand. So
That is correct. And might I just
if
ask,
the trustee would like to,
those documents, counsel?
Yeah, Mr. Counsel, we have asked for these documents to be produced on a monthly basis. So she has those documents available, or should have them. So those documents are available and have been requested prior.
And again, if I have questions on the annual report to date, and I do not have that annual report to date, that sort of puts you in a quandary legally. I think it is in fact something we've requested previously, and I do believe that we are prepared to kind of examine that at this time.
so if the trustee wants to answer these questions under oath, she's entitled to do that. You know, but if she doesn't want to, traditionally, and that's generally how this works, is that you would provide the documents beforehand, and she can discuss those things under oath, and not just be ambushed in public without prior knowledge of what you guys are going to talk about.
Mr. Firminger, we have requested these documents for the past 7 months, and she has failed to provide them for 4 of the last 7 months. This is way prior knowledge. Way prior knowledge.
So you're not examining her on the basis of the document that you have.
Excuse me. How are we supposed to provide documents that only she has and won't release to the public or to the board? How are we supposed to provide the documents to her?
I'm not, I don't know that. You know, I don't have the answers to that. I am just telling you what you are statutorily authorized to do. All right.
And we are requesting that the trustee answer questions about the documents that we have requested be provided. But we'll move on. We've stated your point.
Yeah, and no, pardon me. I'm going to retract my motion, and instead I'm going to move that we table the trustees update.
Okay, seconded. All those in favor of tabling the trustees update? Aye. The trustees update is tabled. We'll now move on to public comment and communication. We'll start with people in the Zoom. They can raise their hand or unmute themselves to be recognized. While we do that, if there's people on the floor here that would like to speak, you can form a line here, and then we'll allow you to speak if anybody is interested in speaking. All right, I see. Are you trying to speak? Were you trying to speak? Oh, Travis. All right. All right, we're having a public comment here in a second. Ms. Bommel, are you wanting to speak?
Yes, please. My name is Eric Beimel, and I'm a township resident. And I am just curious from the trustee. I would appreciate if she would answer, although under oath, I'm not sure. I'm just wondering why she has not provided these documents to the board. It is their responsibility to examine these documents. And I'm just not sure why she is doing this. I would like to see you be more responsible, Ms. Tyson, and think of others instead of yourself. And please tell the truth.
All right, we will have Mr. Merkel, you are recognized. May come up to the lectern.
So I prepared a statement. Just want to say hello and thank you for everybody for showing up. What a ride, huh? First, I want to address my fellow officers and the board. I appreciate everything that you guys have done. I know there's been a lot of countless hours been put into this. I'd like to thank my fellow firefighters as well as my extended family in the public service, EMS, law enforcement. Everybody's been great and reached out to us, make sure that we're doing okay. Next, I want to thank my family and my wife. They are the foundation of my support. And that's why I'm standing up here today, because they motivate me and push me. Lastly, I want to thank all of you, township residents. Thank you for all the calls, donations, food, and just overwhelming support. I can't tell you enough how much that means. This career path for me has been something I've wanted as a little kid. I dreamt the day that I could go out and help others. But not only helping others, but being a positive role model to the community is something we need more than anything right now. That dream came true on September 2020. During my time here at Wabash Township, I got to help others, got to learn some new skills, and I've become a part of this family. In honesty, this has been a dream come true. When tomorrow comes, I'm scared and worried for this township. When the bell goes off for a call, I'm not for sure if anybody's going to be available to respond. I'm truly sorry. You deserve better. I'm worried for my family, my friends that live in this township, and I'm worried for my fellow firefighter safety. 1 or 2 firefighters on a fire scene is not safe. And as certified instructor of the state of Indiana, that's something we preach on, is safety. So in closing, I want to say thank you again for this opportunity to serve Wabash Township. Wabash Township will always be my home away from home. And as I always end every statement to everybody, take care and stay safe. Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Mr. Dwyer, you're recognized.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mike Dwyer, the president of the Wabash Township Firefighters Association. I'm going to read something that's on the Township Trustees website. It says, "Hello, thank you for taking time to get to know Wabash Township. I'm enjoying serving the community as your township trustee. My goals were to bring community outreach, accountability to the trustee's office, ensuring the highest level of transparency by improving the website and the social media presence." There's 4 things on there: community outreach, accountability, improving the website, and social media presence. How's that transparency going, Jennifer? You refused to answer questions because you refused to go under oath. This shouldn't be hard. I understand that there may be some statutes involved in this, but it shouldn't be hard for you to go, "That's okay. I promise to tell the truth." You can't do that. You've clearly stated by refusing that you can't do that. How's your community outreach going? You're firing 3 firefighters. You've got, I don't know what you want to call it, but you've got other firefighters or volunteers that are walking out the door because of the actions you are choosing to make. You're making the community unsafe. We're down over 15 people since you took office. You fired 2 fire chiefs. You've had at least 1 person walk out the door because of the mental anguish you put him through. And I'm looking at you right now and you're just looking there with a little smug look on your face that you don't care. Accountability. You don't know what that means. Earlier tonight, before this meeting, after we found out our injunction was denied, the members of the Township Association sat down and we talked about the different options we have. We don't have any. The board last week voted to create an emergency response department. Brendan, when he was speaking about that, he noted that he wasn't sure if it would work because at the end of the day, Jennifer's still responsible for paying the bills or their salaries. I have zero faith that she will actually do that. She is that twisted that she doesn't care. So we had a vote, we had a discussion and a vote, and the association, it will no longer be responding to runs for as long as we deem fit. She has offered to discuss a contract with us. We are willing to still discuss that with her. However, any contract that we sign will include employing those 3 guys. So Jennifer, if you want to discuss the contract, be ready that that's going to be part of the requirement, is that you employ these 3 guys. So as of 7 a.m. or whenever our last paid guy leaves tonight, that's going to be the last time anyone in the association is planning to respond for runs. Obviously, each person individually has to make that choice, but as an association, we decided not to. Obviously, this isn't a decision we want to make. You can't see it, but my legs are shaking. After we made the vote, I felt like I was going to throw up. And you know what? Jennifer doesn't care. You are a bad person. And I am saying that as nicely as I can. Don't care. You don't care enough to show up to these meetings, to look your constituents in the face. You don't care to answer the questions. You just don't care. And I wish I knew why. But I don't, and we're never going to get the answer to that question. I would like to ask you guys, is there any way in the future you guys could do a resolution that would compel all the board members and the trustee to show up in person for meetings? Because it is absolutely ridiculous that she's going to hide in her house at 132 Knox Drive and refuse to look her constituents in the face.
Yeah, the board can pass a resolution like that in the future is our understanding, especially we get to outline I'd have to double check what the new law is, but we get to set certain procedures and we can prevent people from showing up online. I know that for the board. I have to double check for the trustee.
I would appreciate you looking at that because I believe we all get that we all should have the right to look her in the face as she sits here smugly staring us back in the face instead of smugly through a screen. We are truly sorry for what's happened. If there was any way we could avoid it, we would, but really we think this is the only thing we hope we'll get through with her. I really don't think it's going to get through to her, but we hope it will. We encourage all of the members of the public, schedule meetings with her, tell her that you want your firefighters back, that she has money to pay for. We have t-shirts and signs that we're selling to support the legal fund that we've got to try and support these guys. You can reach out to any member of the association. We can get you hooked up with that. So I just want to thank, lastly, I want to thank the board. You guys have done a tremendous job in the face of opposition for, I don't know why. You guys have done a tremendous job taking care of us. So thank you.
Is there any other public comment from the floor or from the Zoom? Oh, I see one. You are recognized. Would you be able to state your name for the record?
Absolutely. Sam Hoy. I'm sorry? Sam Hoy. Yes. I've been watching this go on for the last couple months, just kind of in disbelief. Am I allowed to ask her a question, see if she'll answer it?
She can answer at the end of public comment.
Okay. So the question I have, I've seen everything that's been written. I've seen what you've stated in the past. What I haven't heard is what happens tomorrow? How are you going to protect my family that lives in this township? How are you serving your community as an elected official with funds that you're supposed to be putting out into the community? And this is your job, is literally to protect us. And I really don't feel that protected right now, but I want to know what your plan is, if you have one, to protect my family, to protect my home, to protect my community. And if you have any feeling whatsoever as to if you've let us down. That's all.
Thank you for your public comment. Is there another public comment? Mr. Ward, you're recognized.
I talk loud, so I'm gonna do myself to do everybody else a favor of.
Stand here,
I
just so
don't
that it gets recorded. Sorry.
Like, the
Well, you can
Audio?
turn it around here and then you can speak from the side. Here,
that
I'll
would be
get you.
perfect. I don't want to see her face. And if she starts making smug things, I'll unplug that. So each time I've come up here, I've told you guys the same thing, right? We're gonna deal in fact, not in half-truths, not in what she believed the interpretation was of a phone call she may have made. So they started asking about the timeline, right? When everybody was notified. And what was it? March?
March 9th or so was the first time.
Okay. Well, y'all are welcome to take a look at this. The Reedy Financial actually put the document out October 27th of 2020. That was October of last year, right? And it's a timeline of when things have to take place to get the fire district completed. She started the process in March. You heard that. By February 28th, all the signatures were needed, and she was supposed to be filing for the fire district starting at the beginning of March. I mean, the timeline is really laid out and very well detailed for what we paid Reedy Financial to do. You might get a smug look in a second from her when I say that Reedy Financial is who gave me a copy of this and is also partially responsible for why I've been terminated from here, because I talked to them and I wasn't supposed to. So y'all are welcome to take a look at this and we can post it someplace, whatever, to make everybody feel better about it. Here's the other thing, guys. The reality of it is simple. Each time there's been some conversation since March about terminating the firefighters, there's always been an excuse, right? It's been money, money, money. Take care of the money problem that didn't exist to start with because they could be paid through the end of the year, but take care of the money problem with the board moving $500,000. And now it's other things. Well, I didn't get buy-in. I didn't get support. That will forever happen. If everybody in this room decided they were in support of this fire district and we got 6,000 signatures, she would come up with another reason. It's just the way she works, guys. I'm not trying to sling mud at her. I'm just trying to tell you guys truth and fact. The fact is simple. She is a retaliatory person. Whenever something happens that she doesn't like, she lashes out at something or someone. And I'm telling you all right now, when these 3 paid firefighters are gone from here, you can look across the back of the room and any volunteer that remains in this building, she will pick off next. Because the association was part of this suit, right? Now, simply because I said it, she probably won't do that to try to make me look dumb, but we'll see. But the reality stands the same, right? The reality is that I would never, ever encourage any of these people here to walk out of this department, ever. It's just not the way we do business. Jennifer's made the comment multiple times that anybody who's had a conversation with her, I don't understand why you guys take everything so personal. Many times. And the reality is everything these people do when they leave here on those pretty red things out there is personal. everything. And it should be personal. If they didn't take it personal, I wouldn't want them here. So everything is personal. It's not our fault that she doesn't have the ability to feel anything. But what she doesn't realize is she's hurting herself so much because she's got an amazing fire department here, amazing people, amazing apparatus, amazing equipment that can make her look amazing if she just sat back and let us work. She couldn't fathom it because she couldn't control it. It's ridiculous. And I'm telling you, you guys think the stuff that I brought up here, giving you fact and showing you, this is the beginning of it. There's gobs of it. But we could go back and forth all day long, and we could argue, and we can argue about why she needed to be put under oath. We all understand this because if she says her name's Jennifer Tyson, you need to see an ID to prove it, right? And I hate to be that way with anybody. But the reality is, this isn't just a hurt feeling thing. It affects everybody in this township. So when I said I would never encourage anybody to walk off of this department, what I will tell you is I've told them, if it's not a safe, it's not going to be safe. When she's dwindled our roster to half of what it was when she started her job, and these folks are volunteers, they're amazing at what they do. But when one or two of them show up, it is not safe. It's not safe for them. It's not safe for the people they're going to help. And I seriously, seriously worry about her ability to do her job as the trustee and cover them if they get hurt on a call.
She's not paying their insurance.
Insurance has been canceled for those guys. Now that she's probably still got work comp and that sort of thing, but at some point ask questions about how she got the insurance policy here canceled. We'll talk about that another time. The point is that everything we do is about feeling and emotion. And it's incredibly unfortunate that not being able to feel and have emotion and be able to look at logic is destroying the jobs of three guys standing back there that are amazing firefighters, amazing men, husbands, and fathers. So their family is going to deal with that. All these volunteers back here give more than we should ever ask of a volunteer. 1,300 calls a year. That's 4 to 5 calls a day. That is a lot to ask out of people that have a full-time job, that's got commitments to their family, that's got commitments to their community in general. But we ask it out of them. Oh, and on top of that, we're going to ask you to come and do training every Wednesday. We're going to ask you to attend special classes to get you certified in things, because what we try to do is expand our level of service and offer things that we have to wait for. So if we can offer it, we're going to try to offer it. So we've asked that of all these people, only to be told, sorry, you didn't do what I told you to do. You didn't go get my signatures for me. The reality is, we all have this power of persuasion, right? We've all got this ability to sit down, to come into one of our meetings and say, guys, listen, the way we're going to work towards a sustained income for this department is for us all to work together. It wasn't handled that way. And she can tell whatever story she wants about what the agreement is with the city of West Lafayette, but I can tell you undoubtedly, and she will agree with it because it pisses her off, the day she fired me, that stopped. Not because of me. Who would want to attach themselves to a department in turmoil the way we are? I wouldn't want to. They know she's erratic. She doesn't ever tell the same story twice. So why would they hitch their wagon to that horse? They're not going to do it. Has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with these folks, has everything to do with credibility, integrity, and honesty. And when all three of those are absent, what is happening right now is what follows it. At the end of the day, guys, if any of these people remain here, God bless you. They shouldn't, because who knows who she's coming after next. If they're here, they're controlled by her. And I know the board did something pretty amazing passing that resolution that pulled them under the purview of the board. So the only thing that changes what is happening right now is for us to either adhere to it or to walk away from it because we're just not sure if it's going to work. I'll tell you all something, and that is at the end of this meeting, when we all leave here, I would strongly suggest that you double check your outlets, double check the things in your house that could cause a fire. Look for those things because the response will be delayed. But the reality is, I would rather another department show up than one of these guys on a fire truck and risk their life exponentially more than they would have with a full crew on that truck. I'm sorry, that's probably not a very popular opinion, and I'm sorry for any of my folks back there that didn't like to hear it. The reality is simple. We either do something that's going to be productive for the community, for the department, or we walk away and say, well, you know, sorry guys, you didn't do my job for me. I'll tell you one thing's for sure. Every person that's affiliated with this department, if they had seen this paper October 27th, that would have changed this entire situation. But that would have meant she was out of control. She didn't get to control how things worked, and it didn't work that way. We either make a change for something to change, or we keep doing the same thing and expect the same result or different results. The reality is, how many times have we done this? We're just, and I love you guys, so hear my heart, not my words, right? You've heard that before? How many times have we done this? We need to give her the ability to do the right thing. We need to give her the ability to sit down and have a conversation with the firefighters. She said she's going to work on a contract with the firefighters. I want to read you guys something. Today, Trustee Tyson sent an email to the people that have to do with the contract in our department to help put that contract together. It says, I did not receive a response on availability from some of the members. On Monday afternoon, I was informed the association filed a lawsuit. We will need to wait until all of the court stuff has been concluded to continue discussions about a contract. I will contact you again for availability at that time. What that means is, if she's waiting for court things to wrap up, you guys need to go. It's going to be a while because it's just going to keep getting piled. That is from her. She wants to wait until the court stuff all gets worked out. I don't know if any of you guys know anything about criminal cases, but that's going to take a while. We do the right thing for them, or we walk away and hope she will do the right thing. And we all have an idea how that's going to go, right? Thank you.
Before you go. Before we move on to the next point of, before we move it to the next person for public comment, I have a question for Chief Ward. Are there or are there not funds available out there that would allow for payment of paid firefighters for a couple of years? Are there funds? Have we applied ever for those funds? Would we have been likely to receive them given the quality of our department if we have been able to apply for them this year?
This answer is going to take a second. Can I have a second?
Yeah, you're all good.
So some of you know that we applied for a SAFER grant through the federal government. Given that the trustees' plan at the time was for us to continue for 3 years to add firefighters, the plan was to acquire a SAFER grant from the federal government to give us, and it was no match grant. They were going to provide us the funds to pay for those people for 3 years. It was huge. It was an opportunity that you don't ever get with the federal government when it comes to matching grants and things like that. Because the federal government was backlogged because of COVID and that sort of thing, they actually decided to do 2 grant cycle years. We applied for the first grant cycle. Our grant writer is amazing, and Greg got us through all of the process. We made it farther than a lot of the applications did. We made it to a peer review section, and at that point, the government decided they're going to utilize that money first to bring back firefighters that have been laid off due to COVID. And we absolutely understood that. We weren't hurt by that. That's okay. We would prefer that. So we were getting ready to reapply again. And because of all this stuff, we had to stop because we didn't know what was going to happen. Our application stayed. Our grant writer was going to take that stuff, move it over again, and submit it. But we didn't, because we didn't know what was happening with all of this stuff. So today, funny you mention it, our grant writer, Greg, sent me a message. hey, Ed, I'm very sorry to see all this stuff happening to the fire department. What she and others don't realize is by doing this, and with this happening, it will have a long-lasting ripple effect, not only for the township as a whole, and who is protected daily by the future of whatever grant you get. One of the biggest things on grants is how stable the budget is, meaning if a grant was awarded for whatever it may be, will the township be able to continue funding that grant, and will their budget stay stable? By what is happening today, that answer is no. But it doesn't just hurt us today by getting rid of them. If somebody else come in here and decided, we'll apply for a grant, out, budget isn't stable. We can't keep the people we have. So she didn't just hurt us today by these decisions. She hurt us for the future, not just getting grants for people, getting federal grants for equipment, which would have saved all the taxpayers money, right? Getting any grant from state or federal money is out because of this. That answer your question, bud?
Yeah, sadly it does. Obviously, most people might not be aware of the work that the department does. Historically, the office of trustee hasn't, had the manpower to do stuff like that, but the department has had capable individuals that can write grants, that can request grants. If the trustee had been a part of any of the conversations, she would have been aware of that, but I don't know if she was. She wasn't here. She wasn't showing up to our meetings. When we asked to establish a committee to discuss fire protection, her response was to terminate Chief Ward, which is absolutely ludicrous. But anyway, I digress. Is there any other public comment? Ms. Roth, you are recognized.
Hi. I just have one quick thing to say, Jennifer, and that is that you could have been the heroine. You could have stopped this train. You could have stopped this madness. You could have done the right thing. You could have let people, if nothing else, at the bare minimum, you could have let people have a job for 6 more months that had a job. There is money for that by your admission. So if nothing else, you could have had the morals and values to allow people during a pandemic, nonetheless, to maintain their job that supports their families at the bare minimum. But instead, you chose the villain. And it's baffling, but it basically says everything about you. Apparently you like to be the villain, and you're nailing it. So bravo to you. And you got a lot of stuff coming your way now from a lot of people, including me. So I guess we're going to do it this way. That's all.
Mr. Ward said some people would rather be infamous than forgotten, and I think that's an accurate description of our trustee. Are there any other public comment requests? You are recognized. Would you be able to state your name for the record? Yeah. Or if you stand in front of the computer, it'll record you. Yeah.
People can see me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm Tanya Schwecke. For real? No, I'm kidding. SCHWECKE. The reason I'm teasing you is because I'm half around here. That's what's known as a wife. So 10 years ago, my husband told me while we were watching the news one night, hey, I've got an interview at the fire department. I already put an application in and this is what I want to do. And I said, no, you're not. And after a lot of conversation, much to my discouragement, I just didn't understand. Why do you want to do this? This is going to take up our free time. You know, you're already busy enough. You're already gone all the time. Why would you want to do this? He's like, I want to serve our community. I didn't get it then. I'm a teacher by trade. I am in a job where I serve people all day long, every day, no matter where I am, because y'all know me, even if I don't know you a lot of the time. So I didn't understand. I didn't get, why do you want to do this? I want to help my community. 10 years later, I could not be more proud of my husband. And he's not even one of these paid guys. What I see him do for the people in our community, for the kids in our neighborhood, for anyone that stops by this department on any given day is way above and beyond. Now, sorry. I don't like to be in the spotlight. I don't like to speak in front of kids. I can do cartwheels. In front of adults, I'm a nervous wreck, so sorry. And I'm emotional about it. Because 10 years later, these people are our family. And that's why they're all standing back here supporting each other. Because they all have a heart to serve. And one of the biggest things I've learned in my 20+ years of teaching is that all behavior is communication. All behavior is communication. And the behavior you're seeing from these guys in this amazing board that has put in countless hours, what does it say to you? I've never met Jennifer Dicey. I don't know that I ever will. I don't think I want to, because she's tearing this family that extends to you. Because I see faces out here of people who I have taught your children, and they're my kids. Because once they walk through my door, I share them with you. What does their behavior communicate to you? What does Jennifer's behavior communicate to you? And now, more than ever, we need our township, our family, to come together and behave in a way that communicates caring, community, togetherness, compassion, and so much more. Now, there are so many details that I don't understand. Loopholes, rabbit holes, whatever you want to call them, wherever we're going, wherever we need to go, I'm not exactly sure. What I am sure of is that these people have your best interests at heart. And I hope that you will choose to let your behavior communicate in a way that makes you feel proud, not only of you, but of the community you live in. Gosh, and these men back here and women, love you. So please, whatever they guide you to do, help us. Help us save the integrity of this department. For the safety of your families and for the safety of ours.
Is there another person that wishes to make a public comment?
Good evening. My name is Mike Roller, R-O-H-L-E-R, not as complicated as Schwecky's, but I am a volunteer firefighter. I serve in other capacities throughout the community. I'm a veteran, I'm a family man. I care about you all. I care about your kids because my wife's a teacher as well as Tanya, so I have a connection there as well. I am the sole firefighter that sat down with Jennifer Tyson. My name has not been mentioned, and I would like it if it never mentions beyond this time here. I don't want to be known for that. That is not who I am. I've sat back and stayed quiet for a long time. My simple message is when I sat down with Jennifer, it was reluctant. There was not good communication on my behalf. I did not think that her intentions were good at that time. I had not been, as many of these other folks and my brothers and sisters and whatnot, been part of the other violent, I guess, at times, meetings. I don't know other way to put it. And I had a simple conversation over in that room, hoping to understand what I had been missing out on, trying to find those answers that they had all experienced and other people had told me, you're crazy for sitting down, you're not going to find the answers you're looking for. So I reluctantly did it anyway. I had to know. I'm inquisitive. I just had to know for myself. To sum up our conversation, I left her with just a few pieces of information, and she gave me one stated fact. As a great leader, the ultimate thing, in my opinion, and I've been told many, many times, is you have to have humility. There is no leader out there, in my opinion, that if you don't have humility and you think your way is the best way all the time, and it's your way or the highway, and you don't want anybody else's help, and you don't take input, and I mean, we could go on and on. You're not going down the right path. Your name will be slew in mud because you're not caring for the people that you represent, the people that you work for. And I just couldn't fathom how we could get to this point today, knowing I had that conversation with her and she would still show no humility to this point. The second biggest part of our conversation, and I was shocked when I said this, and I took it directly to our officers, and it's been repeated and talked about through other meetings. It was the hope that it would be instilled today, is everybody hears about a contract. The territory went sideways, the district went sideways, and all of a sudden in our meeting, a contract is brought up. And she said unequivocally, 100%, without a doubt, she would relinquish her control and sign a contract. It would be done. She would be able to go on her way and do her trustee duties. All she would have to do is sign off on a budget at the beginning, at the end, whenever we do that, apologize. But it would end then when we had that conversation. Shortly after that, we'd draw it up, she'd sign it, everything would be good. We would do our business, the community would be protected. Business would go on and prosper for us, for you, and hopefully this situation wouldn't be here tonight. I think where we stand today shows where her words have gotten us. It's more false lies. She said 100% without a doubt. I don't know if she recorded that statement. It's obviously not written down. I did not record it. You can only go on my word. I have no reason to lie about it. I mean, I'm the one that's standing up here, the sole person that's been hidden from a name that sat down with that conversation with her. I don't look forward to the rest of this evening. I don't look forward to what's going to happen and what you guys are faced with as the people I care about and that I feel is my job for 20 plus years. It's my responsibility to protect you guys when you guys need me. And then, so I don't have anything else. Just aggravated situation. So appreciate it.
I would comment before moving on to the next person that when we heard from the fire department that the trustee was amenable to signing a contract. It was one of the many moments where the board said, you know, we don't agree with her, like she's not fulfilling a lot of her duties, but maybe she'll relinquish this and care about fire protection. And you know, as public servants, and I'm not a perfect public servant, but I strive to be the best public servant I can be. As a public servant, part of what you need to do is try to work in good faith with folks. And one of the most depressing facts about being up here as the chair of this board is that I've lost that ability to see any good faith in another human. And I never expected to get there because we hoped that we would get a contract, and we hoped that, you know, that she actually meant it, that for once, you know, she meant it, but, you know, clearly not. Miss Howie, is that how you? Hoy, you're recognized. All right, you're recognized.
I've got a couple of things. First of all, my name is Jada Hoy, Haughey. I am a homeowner in the unincorporated Wabash Township. Yay, go me. First of all, I would like to address you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything that you guys have done for us every single day, because that takes a lot. And I know it does. I know I'm not here with you, but it takes a lot. And I totally understand that. And thank you for everything you guys have done. But I sat here and I listened to Chief Ward. And I know I'm not old enough to be your mama, but I am a mama. Don't you guys put yourself in danger if you're not protected, because you mean too much to this community to do something to risk your own life and not be protected. I can't swear, right? You understand what I'm saying? This isn't over. There are good people here that are still fighting every day. Please don't put yourself in harm's way. I know that that goes against everything that you guys are made of. But remember, at the end of the day, you have done everything you can. And any karma, any responsibility for anything that goes wrong from here on out is on her. She's the one that made this choice.
Are there any other public comments? Oh, I see a raised hand for a second there. I don't know if I saw that incorrectly. Chris, that you wish to speak, Mr. Chris Diga? Just double checking. All right, Mr. How do you pronounce his last name? Sorry. All right, Chris, that you mean to speak? Oh, all right. See, no. Were there any other public comments? All right. Seeing as there are no other public comments, we will move on to. Oh, Mr. Spiker asked a question. Oh, Mr. Spiker, you're recognized.
Thank you, guys. I guess this is just to the volunteers, if you guys are in the room or listening to the meeting. I know how hard it is to just quit. It's not something you want to do. Not to put Joe on the spot, but you can ask Joe how I acted the day I resigned. It was not something I wanted to do. Heck, even when I resigned, we got a call to a gas leak, and I wanted to go on the truck. Told me, no, you already resigned, stop it. I know it's difficult. It's very difficult. That's something Jennifer won't ever understand is to do something for nothing. I mean, she gets paid to be a public servant and doesn't even want to do her own job. If you guys haven't seen the JC article, she doesn't even care about the dead, doesn't even want to have them buried. So what makes you think she would care about you guys if you died in the line of duty? Don't risk your life for this. It's not worth it. That's all.
Before we move on to the next item, is there any public comment? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Agenda, old business. Item A, presentation of resolution to move funds to cover costs of legal counsel. I would ask counsel, have you been paid yet? You're muted. Sorry.
I'm not sure personally. I don't. I would have to check on that. But I will get that information to you.
Our understanding is as of yesterday, they had not been paid. Despite our frustrations today in court regarding the case Mr. Biederman has made, the only one good sliver of hope is that he's not choosing to abide by his contract and charging us late fees at this moment, as we understand it. That was a statement yesterday. Because, then we'd be out more money that we can't afford to pay extra for. Other than that, seeing as, Ms. Tyson, do we need to move money for it to pay for them? Have you paid them? All right, seeing as Ms. Tyson is ignoring the question, I'll move to table old business item A. Is there a second? All those in favor of tabling old business item A? Aye. All right. Seeing as it was unanimous, we'll move on to item B. I would actually move that we table old business B through E. Given the pressing nature of the situation we're dealing with, I guess we'll just keep pushing back the business of the township over this crisis that Trustee Tyson created. Is there a second to table items B through E?
I will second that motion.
There is a second. I seek unanimous consent to.
Second.
Yep. All right. And sorry, and I meant through D. It was, so item E is the consideration of contract between Wabash Township and the Wabash Township Fire Department Association. I know that it was already touched upon. Would one of the members of the department be able to state where we are regarding that?
Pursuant to the last time we talked, she had emailed a couple members of the association and offered, I want to say this is a Wednesday, and asked us for times in order to meet early this week. A couple people responded to her. My personal response was Monday evening would have been best, I would just make myself available at any other time that she chose to meet. She then sent an email this morning, and Chief Ward read that earlier, in which she said that due to the pending legal action against the association, she wasn't going to meet with us this week. I don't know if that applies to until the legal action's over or not. I'm not sure. But as I said earlier, we haven't had any feedback from her, whether it's good or not. And as I also said earlier, we're not going to sign anything that does not include employing the 3 paid guys that we currently have on staff, if they even want to continue employment here after this is over. I can't speak for them, but I don't know if they would even be amenable to working for her again under the contract. So, but that would be the intention, is to have a contract that requires her to continue to employ these 3 guys. I would probably want to add back pay on there to go back to this date in which they're laid off. Just because I don't think it's right. The money's there.
I'll speak in my individual capacity as a board member that would have to approve an agreement. I would be amenable to paying back pay, given that obviously the circumstances are cruel. But I guess I'd like to ask the trustee for a quick yes or no answer as to whether she intends to get this done in the next week or so that we can continue to have fire protection and keep the 3 paid guys on the paid, and then necessarily dissolving the ERD, given that we would have a contract approved with the trustee. Ms. Tyson, are you planning on passing a budget, like adopting this contract, given that it's all outlined? We're only missing on like 2 lines to like fill it up, one of them being start date and end date, and then the other one being exactly the amount that you would be receiving in what installments. Ms. Tyson?
On how legal counsel has advised me not to speak at this meeting, so I'm not going to.
Mr. Dwyer, you're recognized. I give you 2 minutes of my time.
So one of the other things I had mentioned in one of my communications with Ms. Tyson initially was I'd asked her to continue the employment of the 3 guys until we'd worked out the contract details. I'd like to reiterate that. Like I said, the association, so the volunteers voted to no longer to respond to runs until they're employed again, or until we've got the contract signed rather, which will require their employment. So I'd like to reiterate that and put that offer back on the table to Ms. Tyson, that if she wants to continue having volunteer firefighters, that we will resume responding, or agree to resume responding, if she will agree to continue their employment until we can work out the details of the contract. So this is a question I'm going to directly ask you, Ms. Tyson. Will you, Trustee Tyson, in charge of fire protection for Wabash Township, agree to put off the termination of the 3 paid guys until we have a chance to sit down and work out the details of the contract, and we can both sign it? And then we can discuss other items that are involved with that contract, who does what, who's managing who, where the money comes from.
On advice from legal counsel, I will not be speaking at the meeting tonight.
Understood.
Before we go any further, it's our understanding that you terminated all 4 of the firefighters, well, 3 of you firefighters and yourself, the healthcare, is that correct?
On how I will not be speaking at the meeting tonight based off of advice from legal counsel.
All right, I'd be really curious about an answer there, given that we're not in open enrollment, but anyway. Moving on to the next question there being, without fire protection, given that we don't, the board is the one that decides what positions are available in the township. We do it through Form 17. Code indicates we can unilaterally create or remove positions. But, historically, the trustee brings a proposal and the board considers it, amends it, and pass a version of it. You're aware that the positions that you can hire people for is 1 part-time firefighter, 2 firefighter 1s, 1 firefighter 2, and a chief when it comes to fire protection. Are you aware of that? It's a question to you, trustee. Are you aware of that? Are you aware of that, trustee? We're waiting for answer. Yeah, just wanted to give a trustee an opportunity to answer a simple question. Right. Would any of the other board members like to speak on regarding a contract, especially for the ERD in particular, even if trustee is not willing to sign on to one? Do you have anything to add on that front? Do you have a comment regarding that? Not sure. All right. Then I would move that we table agenda item E. Is there a second? All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Nope. All right, so that's tabled. We can skip over agenda item F. We've had to write this prior to Friday's meeting, and given that we didn't know how that meeting would play out specifically, we included it just so that there wouldn't be any questions as to the legality of it. Moving on to agenda item G, consideration of other measures necessary to maintain current level of fire protection. G. I know you had wanted a comment. Would you like to speak? You can come over here and speak. Makes it a little bit easier, probably.
I'm going to preclude this by saying I personally hold no animosity towards the legal counsel on either side for this crisis and for the injunction being rejected. They're simply doing what they're paid to do. So from that perspective, I think we need to step back and realize they're doing what they're paid to do and give them the best advice possible within their capacity. Relative to that, and I know Ms. Tyson has been asked not to comment, and I will abide by that. I would simply ask that she would reply in writing to the board. I'm reading to you from December 15th of 2020, and there is a comment here that is a matter of the minutes. It says, since this is Ms. Tyson responding, I'm happy to say we have forged a path to improve our services to the township residents. We secured funding to hire additional firefighters and provide them full benefits for the first time in township history. This is December 15th, 2020. We hired 2 more firefighters this fall. We're now working to further expand services to our residents as our township moves from a volunteer to a accommodation department as defined as she would like to have as a fire district. I am proud of the efforts we have made to expand the fire department, provide benefits, including health insurance to hardworking first responders, increase aid to our residents in need, and identify options for a sustainable and long-term funding plan that will meet the increasing needs of our growing township. And with that, I would ask that Ms. Tyson, since the last information I believe we have all seen is that Ms. Tyson, as the authority by the Indiana Code of the trustee, submits those monthly statements that she authorizes that goes on a gateway publication that goes to the state. With those documents that have been submitted by Ms. Tyson and authorized as legal, I can find no justification in
denying these men their job when, as a matter of fact, she has authorized a budget and the money shows it's there. So I would like, out of courtesy, so I can understand how we're going to do the budget for this next year when we sit down, how do I understand how that decision was made on the budget, on the monthly budget that she submitted, showing that the money is there, yet somehow we mysteriously don't have money now to pay for these, where it's documented on December 15th, 2020, that she was happy to show that we could move forward. Thank you.
Mr. Betts, do you have any comments? No. I would add one more thing on the subject of the fire district. And speaking to financial advisor earlier this year, a common understanding that we got was that, and this was from financial advisor, that given that we didn't start the work last year, the earliest we could apply for any of this would be to do it in 2022. I don't know if the trustee's aware of that. I don't know if she cares, but it is what it is. We weren't going to get it done this year. And the termination of these guys is absolutely unnecessary, which, I mean, she might not accept it, but it's still the truth. We're going to leave our community without necessary fire protection. So, were there any items that any of you wanted to introduce for discussion regarding what we could do going forward at this moment? Or are you going to take time to regroup? Any from the board on that subject? Any other ways to maintain and sustain current level of fire protection? Mm. Okay, perfect. Seeing, I would then move that we table, well, not table, but I don't think that right now we need to cover it. If it comes up again, then we can discuss it. I accidentally copied that twice. So that would be moving on to future meeting dates for 2021. Before I do that, I'd like to take a point of privilege to speak candidly. This hasn't been easy as a board member. I didn't join this job for anything other than to help people. There's a quick snippet video that if you're good at finding stuff on YouTube, you might be able to find from when I ran for the township board. 3 items that I primarily discussed were finding a sustainable solution for our fire protection, which I'm still committed to. I've stated on the record repeatedly, time and time again, that we don't have enough information to make a decision because the trustee has not provided that information. But that my gut feeling is that we, as a township, would be best served if we created a fire territory with West Lafayette. For that reason, given that it was my gut feeling, earlier in the year, I met with Tim Heath. We spoke about what that would entail. I provided the information to the trustee and to our financial advisor. Our financial advisor said that that information he should be able to get from the, I believe the term is city controller, for West Lafayette. It was information regarding some basic tax information. I thought there was a chance there. And then the trustee blew it up, and it's been downhill from there. I was been speaking, obviously these couple of days have been really frustrating as a member of the board, as a member of the public, the chairman of the board. I've told people that it feels like it's Groundhog Day, but every day it gets worse. And I mean, it's only getting worse because of the actions of one individual. But then in addition to that, we have the other areas that I wanted to speak on and wanted to work on. Our expanding access for Spanish-speaking folks, our community. I mean, this gets lost in all of the conversation, but I'm Latino, if anybody didn't know that. And I recognize that there is a significantly underserved community here. You don't have to go that far. As far as this here in this community, West Point here, Point West, sorry. These two communities have a lot of need, have a lot of Spanish speaking folks. And, you know, just as a result of a language barrier, they're not often served by our government effectively, you know. I thought that we'd have an opportunity to be able to improve access to those services. You know, I still want to do that, although before that, we need to address the bigger question, which is when will our township elected official care to provide those benefits to folks? When we provided $250 in half a year, it's frankly an embarrassment. It doesn't take a lot to find this out, but I'm also a Democrat, which is weird. I know that there was a whole change in our board. And, you know, part of what I wanted to do was make sure that we were serving our community well. Wanted to make sure that we could provide insulin for our community. Any reporter that has asked me any question in the last 6 months knows that I will end about half of the interviews by telling them that I hope that one of these days we can talk about insulin. I still want to do that. But we can't get there without a trustee that doesn't do the job, with a trustee that doesn't do the job. We can't get there when the biggest chunk of our budget, which is fire protection, is just being used as a toy, as a playground for a little kid that's trying to like throw sand into everyone's faces simply because they didn't like her idea or the game she wanted to play. It's an embarrassment. It's not what I stand for. Frankly, it's not what my party's principles stand for. To be frank, it's also not what the other party's principles stand for either. It's just an embarrassment. $250. You know how many families need to go and look for assistance from other resources in the community? Do you know how distressing it must be to have an individual try to reach out so that the township trustee will bury their loved one who passed away? It's embarrassing. And either because of your incompetence or unwillingness to do the job, you hadn't responded to them. It's embarrassing. It's frankly embarrassing. I don't know why you're here in an elected office. I simply don't. You're not being a public servant. You're serving yourself. I'd like to know who you serve in our community. I'd love to know whose principles, whose values you uphold. What's your moral guiding light? Because you don't seem to have any. Yeah. It's embarrassing that the coroner's office has to go figure out how to bury someone when it's not their responsibility. The coroner's office. When the heck does the coroner try to make news? Never. I bet you nobody here knows who few people, maybe the firefighters, few people know who the coroner even is. They're a coroner. And here they are having to tell us that our township trustee is not responding to calls regarding a dead person, when it's her duty and her responsibility, her duty as outlined by Indiana code, to provide burial services. And then after she's called out in an article, then she finally replies back and asks, when can we talk? Do you know how much harm you've caused to people? Do you recognize that? Do you know that when you show up and tell people there's an imaginary $250 limit that is not outlined in township assistance guidelines, You can look at the document. It's not outlined there. But you're telling them that there's a $250 limit. So people don't ask for money. They go back, they tell us the township can't help us. And instead, they have to go to other townships who can't help them. They can't help them by law because they can only serve their residents. You're a failure and is a disgrace to our party, to our community, and to the office of the trustee. And I hope you guys excuse my long point of privilege there. As for the future meetings of 2021, on July 20th, the trustee will propose a budget that she apparently does not intend to use. On July 27th, the board will discuss what their priorities and considerations are for the 2022 budget. On August 10th, there will be a further discussion regarding funding associated with the Wabash Township Fire Department, which I hope we'll have by that point because the trustee recognizes her actions are damaging the community. And that'll be a line item discussion because we're going to go pretty granular on this budget. The next one will be on August 24. It'll be a line item, again, discussion regarding funding associated with township assistance and trustees office funds. On September 7th, there will be an amended budget, first reading. September 21st, there will be a second reading of the amended budget. On October 5th, there will be a first backstop meeting if needed. On October 19th, there will be a second backstop meeting if needed. And before we proceed to adjournment, I'd like to speak publicly in the record and state that we need the documents for all of the expenditures for this year as well as last year. The last year ones are easier to find, but we'd like to get one that has actual dates, which is not as easily accessible on Gateway. It just throws them all lump sum by fund. So that we can actually look at the expenses and outline dollar by dollar how things are going to get used, and not just in big chunks of pockets that a trustee can choose to use however she sees fit. So we'll need that information so that we can pass a budget. Moving on to agenda item 8, adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved, thank God.
Is there a second? All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye. Aye. Seeing as there are no individuals opposed, this meeting is adjourned at 8:01 p.m.